Hillsdale loses in a heartbreaker in a really competitive game against Finley, 14-16, in a game that at the end of the day was decided by a safety that happened. This was a very interesting, very competitive game because there was two times the defense scored in this game. One was a safety that obviously ended up giving Finley the win. Now, obviously, they didn't exactly know at that time that it was going to lead to Finley getting the win. It was the end of the first quarter when it happened, but Hillsdale got themselves back in a game with a fumble recovery for a touchdown by Colin Morrow. Like, at that point, there was 11:54 left to go in the fourth quarter. There was a real possibility that Hillsdale could have won this game. If you just looked at the scoring, if you just looked at this game, this truly was a defensive battle because Finley did get off to a fast start, but the thing about getting off to a fast start is about how you respond. And Hillsdale instantly responded after you had a Andrew Leonard 2-yard touchdown run. 38 seconds later, you had a Ben Nagoshu 58-yard touchdown run to truly get Hillsdale back in this game. And it truly was back and forth. Finley did go up 16-7 at the end of the first half. Obviously, Hillsdale ended up having that fumble recovery early in the fourth quarter, but that was truly it offensively when it came to scoring. And not only was that truly it when it came to scoring, there wasn't a ton of mistakes from both sides. Like, if you look at it, there was no interceptions thrown. There was one forced fumble in this game. It truly was just these defenses was really playing tough. It was about getting pressure. You had Hillsdale have multiple sacks in this game. I believe they had at least 5 sacks in this game. Finley had at least 3 in this game. They were getting in the backfield, they were getting snaps, and that's exactly what you need to have happen in a really close and competitive game. And not only do you have to give Hillsdale credit for keeping a really close competitive game, a top 20 team in the country, you also have to feel bad for Hillsdale because this is a team that is falling just short of the last couple of games when they had opportunities to win these games. They had a chance to win against Tiffin. They had a chance to win against Finley. This is a Hillsdale team that truly plays hard. This is a defense that truly plays hard. This is an offense that is really close to being able to put this team over the top. And it was just really a defensive battle between two great teams, two defenses that were just going back and forth, and two just playmakers that were making plays for this team. You have Hillsdale Carico. He was the main playmaker for Hillsdale when it came to being a wide receiver. 4 receptions, 87 yards. He was averaging like almost 20 yards a catch. Like, he's a really big playmaker for Hillsdale. I mentioned Ben Nagosho. You also have Colin McKernan, 141 yards, 12 for 19. Maybe not the most efficient, but he didn't make any mistakes. He didn't have an interception. He did get sacked 3 times, but when you have a defense that sacked the Finley guy at least 5 times in the game, you look a little bit better than only giving up 3 sacks. But it truly was a defensive performance that if you're really an offensive type guy, this probably wasn't the most exciting game for you. But if you really want a high, intense football game, this was the game for you. Like, you don't really see a ton of games that had 2 scores from their defense. You don't see a ton of safeties. You don't see a ton of fumble recoveries for a touchdown. This game had almost everything. The only thing it truly didn't have was either a punt or a kick return for a touchdown. That would have been great. That truly would have been a defensive special teams type person game, like if it had that. But this was just an interesting, fun game, a very competitive game. Obviously, my heart goes out to Hillsdale. It's always tough to lose by 2 points, especially because of a safety. Now, I did mention at the time, you don't necessarily know you're going to lose because of that, but at the end of the day, when it's a 2-point difference, when you look back at the end of the day, there's obviously some things that if you're Hillsdale, you want to kind of do a little bit differently. You want to be able to protect them a little bit differently. And it's just rough, man. I feel really bad for this Hillsdale team. They could completely be flipped with their record-wise. They could be 4-2 at this point. They're 2-4 right now. I think this Hillsdale team is playing too well. I think they're really too close in these games. And I think it's one of those things that they just really need one of these games to flip on them. They need one of these really close games to get a win. And sometimes that's the hardest part of college athletics, or just athletics as a whole, is when you have these close games and you lose these close games over and over and over, sometimes it becomes a pattern a little bit. And it's unfortunate, but really the way that Hillsdale can overcome this is not only try to flip the switch, but also take lessons from this game. Because you're showing that you belong on the field with these guys. Like, you show that you have the defense. You show that you can play a clean game for the most part. If you can do a little bit better protecting your quarterback, if you can get a little bit more going offensively, there's places and opportunities for this Hillsdale team to get wins. And I truly think that the record doesn't show how far this Hillsdale team has gone, how good this Hillsdale team is, because I truly think that this defense is good, and having a guy in Colin McKernan, having a guy in Ben Nugushu, having a guy in Tuck Carrico, having those guys that can be impact players for you, and then having a guy in Shea Rudy that had been a little bit involved. They weren't able to really get a ton of other guys kind of involved. Now, I do know they had a couple other guys that were able to rush for a decent amount, with Colin McKernan being obviously the quarterback, Kyle Riffle, but it's truly Ben Nugushu that has been kind of the lead back for Hillsdale, especially in this game. But yeah, difficult loss for Hillsdale. Obviously, you don't love to see it, but you do have some positive things to take away. You have an opportunity to build on this, to realize that, hey, we can compete with these teams. I think that Hillsdale will build off of it, even though it was an unfortunate game and an unfortunate loss for them as well. So not necessarily fun to talk about for the most part, but I do think Hillsdale is going to be completely fine. I think they're going to continue to play hard. I think they're going to continue to play the style, and I really, truly hope that they get a little bit better results going in the future. But I'll talk more about them in the future. Maybe not every single week. I don't necessarily know, but really do wish Hillsdale the best of luck the rest of the season. They're really, really close. They're continuing to get better every week, and I think they're going to break through here shortly. So if you enjoy this recap, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Definitely more content will be coming out for them. But until then, thank you for tuning in.